Hi, Jennifer. Good afternoon, and thank you for taking this time to talk to me about your leadership in AI. And I want to dig deep into all the role you've done so far in AI, as well as your role at Partnership for Public Service.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm honored.
Thank you. So, Jennifer, how did you truly get involved in strengthening the public sector leadership in AI through your role with Partnership for Public Service?
Yeah, sure. So if we kind of wind the clock back just a little bit, I started out as a geospatial engineer. So I started out on the technical engineering team at a very fast-growing technology company here in the Washington D.C. area. It just happened to be in the Washington D.C. area, and we did work with in support of a lot of super secret agencies as well as industry. And this was at a time that not a lot of people knew about geospatial engineering, didn't know a lot about geospatial in general. And my CEO at the time, the CEO of the company, about 3 years in, asked me if I wanted to start coming to meetings with our clients, our customers, to hear from them. He wanted to bring a technical, now it's known as, a solutions architect, or, in almost every conversation, you're going to have someone highly technical who also understands the business needs of that customer. So my CEO introduced me to those conversations very early in my career, and ever since I've been with organizations, both public sector as well as private, high growth, innovation based, deep data and AI related companies on the product side as well as the services side. And it was through a number of conversations about a little over a year ago that I was talking with leaders at the Partnership for Public Service, and they were talking about their AI Center for Government, and things just clicked really beautifully. And the conversation was the right place at the right time, I think, for everyone involved. And I feel very honored to be recruited into the position of Vice President of Artificial Intelligence and Modernizing Government at the partnership, and leading the AI Center for Government with a pretty amazing team at the partnership. So that's a little bit about my background, and then kind of fast forward a couple of decades to me now being at the partnership and with the AI Center for Government.
That's awesome. I think the public sector leaders need the AI, education and leadership skills today more than ever, and definitely want to know a little bit more about the goals of the organization and how you're helping federal leaders to adapt to the opportunities and risks that AI is bringing to the table, especially in the public sector.
Oh, absolutely. So, for years, for well before ChatGPT hit the scene 2 years ago, I've been really interested in terms of how leaders, especially being from a data and AI background, how leaders understand the technology and the questions they need to ask, and the strategies they need to put in place as a leader and as part of a leadership team. And again, that's within public sector, that can be nonprofit, that can be industry. So many years ago, I became interested in really helping leaders understand that path. And at the partnership at the AI Center for Government, we really focus on kind of a few areas. One is the leadership piece, right? You can't pull AI into an organization without the leaders having an understanding of what AI is, what it isn't, what is an AI strategy, what is AI governance, why is that important, how do I set culture around artificial intelligence, what is responsible artificial intelligence, understanding data, where the data come from, all of these pieces that they don't need to be building the models, right? They're not building the models, they're not building out the data sets. However, they need to be very knowledgeable. And I used to refer to it a couple of years ago as AI literacy, right? That leaders were required really as part of their leadership toolbox to have AI literacy. I now never say AI literacy. It is AI fluency. They have to understand at a much more fluent level of knowledge. And that's a lot because leaders are leading their area of expertise. And then we've now brought kind of this tidal wave of artificial intelligence that's come into their world. So at the AI Center, we focus on the leadership piece. So we work with federal, state, and local, what I would consider, SES C-suite leaders of those organizations. We also work on and help really make sure that the next generation of AI talent, that those coming out of college, those coming out of high school, those who are living in an AI first world, that those brains and that talent is attracted to public service. And what does it look like for them? We also do some government affairs work and make sure that that publicly elected officials have an understanding of artificial intelligence as well. And we bright spot. It is so important, the amount of silos in the world, not just in the public sector, but across across sectors, across agencies in the public sector, the amount of silos of these like amazing, really critical AI projects that are happening and use cases that are happening that maybe another agency doesn't know about. And I always talk about the generosity of lessons learned, like what didn't go well in order to result in what has gone well. Like this, an AI use case that's gone really well now. Like, what did you learn? Because as you and I know, AI is all about starting small, testing, learning, testing, learning, testing, learning, adjusting, adjusting. So the bright spotting of those leaders who are really AI first leaders and doing some, bringing some pretty incredible AI use cases into the world in public agencies, and then also bright spotting those AI use cases. For example, just today we hosted an AI use case showcase, and we had AI leaders from across various agencies and at the state and federal level talking about their AI use cases. So let me pause there for a moment. There are a couple of buckets when we talk about the AI Center, and it really is around leadership. It's around next gen talent. It's around making sure that publicly, elected officials have an understanding of artificial intelligence, and it's also around bright spotting and really shining a light on those who are doing some pretty amazing work in the public sector around AI.
That's awesome. You covered a lot of ground. I like the word AI fluency, from AI literacy to AI fluency, because, like you mentioned, truly the leaders have to be fluent in asking questions. They don't need to understand the math behind the algorithms or, even how to write the algorithms, but asking questions. And basically, it boils down to how AI is very different from traditional deterministic software models they have been used to, or even using software to, as a technology enabler. And now AI has different capabilities and is a more powerful tool. So I really like the AI fluency. And I did see the LinkedIn post about showcasing the use case, and unfortunately, I was not able to join. But yeah, the highlighting the lessons learned across the agency is so important. So interestingly, in December, I think all agencies decided to publish their use cases on GitHub, and I was digging deep into NIH, HHS, Department of Commerce, and there were lots of interesting use cases. But you hit upon the point, the silos. I think bringing them together is the amazing work that you're doing for better government, stronger democracy, and the responsible experimentation that they can do with the help of AI. This is awesome. So what are you learning about some of the barriers to innovation or to implementation and experimentation?
Oh my goodness. So that's a layered question. There are so many layers to it. It's a layered question. For one, I think one of the biggest barriers is the learning curve. So I'm going to come back to leadership quite a bit because that's an area that I believe strongly that when we have strong, confident leaders
Mhm.
who understand, again, high level AI at the strategic level, that we can build so much more. We can build trust. We can build the AI models. We can build amazing use cases. And so there's this AI leadership piece that we talked about. Other barriers are the ability to bring talent in. Two pieces of the talent conversation. One is to attract those with AI knowledge into public service. Many feel very mission driven and want to do so, maybe for 2 years, maybe for 4 years, maybe their entire career. And so bringing them in, having them match with job descriptions, right? There's an entire conversation around how you bring in and you attract talent into public service, using what many will call outdated talent attraction capabilities, and you know how you actually write up those job descriptions and let people know about the role. So there's the attraction of talent into public service. There's also the skilling and reskilling of existing public servants who are very interested in learning more and want to know more and need that the skilling and the reskilling to bring them into a world of AI. And there's an interest there. And so kind of from a talent perspective, so you've got leadership barrier, you have a little bit of a, you know, the talent conversation, talent barrier. There's also just and it, yes, there are lists, there are locations that you can look into AI use cases. When leaders come together and when they convene and when they have time to talk to one another about, yes, there might be two use cases that others see as successful, but what are the lessons that leader or that team learned along the way? And so the convening of those brains, right, of those leaders to come together and not only talk about the use case, the end result, you know, everything that's shiny and amazing. What did it? Because you and I know, right? We're technologists.
Right. What
We
went
know
wrong
all the
there?
zigzag that happens along the way. So those might be three. There are others, but those might be the three buckets that for today's conversation, I think that I'll mention and focus on with you.
Yeah, definitely. The lessons learned and the challenges, because somebody was saying, I was at an event and they were saying, oh, we stood up this generative AI solution and at the state level in less than 3 weeks. And the question the lady was asking is, but how long did you take to prep the data? And the answer was 5 years.
Yeah,
So like,
exactly. Right. It's like it's the visual of like of the iceberg, right?
right,
You see
exactly.
this much on the surface and there's, you know,
So
10
much.
times the size underneath the water. 5 years, yes, 5 years to prep the data. What was it? 3 weeks to get it up and 5 weeks to get it up and running?
Running 3 weeks to get it up and running, but
Yes.
5 years to prep the data.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Um, so you also talked a little bit about just the showcasing of some of the use cases. Are there any examples that are used to enhance public service delivery or even internal government operations that come to mind?
Oh, I think in particular, you know, some of the exciting use cases are really, you know, that really stick with me are around fraud. You know, just for example, fraud and waste. So the IRS and other departments have really put in some really wonderful AI, leveraged AI in wonderful ways and really helpful tactical ways to identify fraud and waste, which is incredible. I also believe in the healthcare piece of artificial intelligence. So much over, you know, within our healthcare agencies and the research and development around healthcare. I think both in the public and the private sector, all the work that's being done around mammograms and the ability for, you know, that's a public-private partnership at its finest. So the ability for artificial intelligence to really help doctors and radiologists identify, identify breast cancer through mammograms much faster at a much higher rate. So there's the fraud piece, there's the healthcare piece. There are you know, I will call them basic chatbots, some ways that citizens can now interact in a digital way that seems very natural to everyone because, you know, years ago people started through the digital transformation piece and they don't really need to see or know about the AI on the back end. That's really a wonderful way. So the ability for all of us living here in the US to be able to engage from a public servant perspective, right? To engage with our locality or our state or the federal government in a digital way and have AI on the back end really helping to create a much faster answers to our questions. I also love how AI helps, you know, in seconds translate, you know, forms, you know, the
Yeah.
digitalization of forms, translate them into 5 languages, 15 languages, 79 languages. Like that's very powerful again for that interaction that we as citizens can have that interaction digitally with you know, again our local, state, and federal agencies.
That's awesome. Yes, I'm also leading a public sector citizen engagement virtual assistant, and that is truly the power of giving hyper personalized responses as well as the language translation.
Yes.
But there was also a whole conversation that we've had with the public sector leaders at the organization I'm implementing about, hey, but some of our demography of residents do not want to use, are not comfortable. We still want to escalate to a live agent. So, what is that mindset, some of the mindsets that you're seeing? Because on one hand, there is embracement of AI. On the other hand, there are two, three, there's a lot of apprehension, either by the employees, federally employed personnel, that their jobs will be taken away because of this hype around the myth that the jobs will be taken away. And then the secondly, it's also about, will all the demographics in the resident, will adopt AI solutions. Like when I was building the bot, that was one of the questions that came up. So what are the mindsets leaders have to adopt to deal with some negativity around AI?
Yeah, oh, that's such a great question. It's a growth mindset. In today's day and age, we all need to lean in
Mhm,
into a growth mindset. So as leaders, for certain,
mhm,
what have we learned?
mhm,
Quite honestly, we can unlearn to then relearn. I mean, I don't try to oversimplify a growth mindset. However, it really is, we've learned something. We need to unlearn some of it to relearn. And so, when I'm with leaders who are willing to learn, unlearn, and relearn, that's an incredible opportunity for leaders. So it's that growth mindset. I also believe that leaders need to be courageously curious.
mhm,
These are new technologies, and it takes courage as a leader to say, we've been doing it one way.
mhm,
Let's look to see. By the way, AI doesn't solve everything. AI isn't the right tool for everything. Let's look to see, let's identify what the business case is, right? What is the problem we're trying to solve? And it takes courage for that leader to say, excellent, we've identified, 10 use cases. Let's focus in on the one that will have the most benefit to the public. Let's focus in on that. Let's start small. Let's test and learn, adjust, test and learn. It takes a lot of courage for
mhm,
a leader who may not be used to that, right? Again, AI may be
mhm.
newish or brand new to this leader. It takes courageous curiosity. It takes courageous leadership to say that to your team. Um, I also deeply believe that this is not so much a conversation about AI taking jobs. This is a reskilling of our workforce for certain.
Mhm,
It's an entire, it's almost, it's changing entire cultures of organizations to this growth mindset,
mhm,
constant and consistent learning. And it's the ability to allow and believe that AI can do the thunking,
mhm,
right? While the human being does the thinking, right? So allow AI to do the repetitive tasks
mhm,
that an agency or a team have, allow the AI to do that so that that frees up and creates more availability for the human being to do the thinking and the creativity around what the AI has brought forward or has uncovered through large data sets that maybe a human being could never have done or clearly not done in 3 weeks, 5 weeks, 2 years, right? So it's that thinking and thunking that I'd like everyone to consider. So those would be kind of the three things that I would mention right off the, from this conversation.
I like your terminologies here, the thunking of the repetitive and boring jobs. And frankly, people hate to do boring, repetitive tasks. So,
Right. Allow them, free them up. And I borrow that from Cassie Kozyrkov. So the thinking and
okay,
thinking,
yeah,
Google
yeah.
that. And
Oh,
she has incredible videos and incredible talks
oh,
on
she is
just that
fun,
topic. And I
man.
heard her speak years ago. And I've just, it's something I was speaking on a panel yesterday and I used the thinking and thinking, and it really resonates with people. Like they
Yeah.
really get it. And so I give her the credit and the kudos for that frame, that way of thinking about artificial intelligence.
Yeah, definitely. And the fear and the apprehension is a lot to do about the unknown. And once you unearth and you start off, like you said, with a curiosity and growth mindset, they're going to learn more and see how it can help the jobs and not replace them, right? So,
Absolutely, because AI is here.
Yeah.
So it's like the fish swimming in the ocean who says, I don't feel the water. Well, you're in the ocean, the water's all around you. AI is all around us. It's been part of people's lives for years before we started actually calling it publicly, marketing it as artificial intelligence. It is here. You've been Google searching for years and years and years. That has had an AI back end to it, right? That's just one example. And so I love to be part of conversations that help pull back the curtain on what artificial intelligence is. And it's really augmented, right? Instead of artificial, it's augmented intelligence. And so I believe in life, when anything is new or curious to you, the sooner you can understand it, the less frightening or concerned you are about it. And also the more proactive you can be in conversations. And that's the piece I want to ensure that not just leaders, everyone has a say and a place at the table to talk about artificial intelligence. And people won't have that confidence until they pull back the curtain a little bit and they see what it's all about, and they have a bit of confidence to join those conversations. And for leaders, they need to be leading those conversations, right? Not just joining, but leading those conversations.
Yeah, wonderful. Yes, pulling the curtain back and leading the conversations. And again, without everyone's knowledge, they're using it whether they like it or not, the spam filter, the Google search, etc. So what message do you have for uh, whether it is the public or whether leaders in public service, how to create the culture of this responsible experimentation in the public sector without sacrificing the public trust? Because sometimes, public at large, there is all different demographics that exist in the public. So that is, sometimes there are concerns about privacy and governance and AI going rogue. So there's this balance between responsibly experimenting with AI use cases, but at the same time building the public trust.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. It's such a thoughtful question. Transparency in life, and I don't I'm not trying to narrow it down and say it's easy. However, transparency is core. So when the government can be as transparent as possible about data, where the data come from, how your own data might be used. Do you have consent? Have you provided consent to use the data? All of those pieces of build towards transparency. And we the capital W, again, whether it's public sector, nonprofit, private sector, we all need to do a much better job of requiring transparency. And I would actually say demanding transparency, because transparency leads to trust.
Mhm. No, I love it. I love it. And one of the simplest things that I say is that suppose organizations are adopting AI, say for recruitment, are they declaring to the candidates whether they're using AI or not for the recruitment? And if they're using a chatbot, the first thing they should say is this chatbot is powered by AI. Simple things that go into the transparency that you're talking about. That is awesome. So Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. Lot of food for thought for public sector leaders and the collective we, like you said, whether it's a nonprofit, public sector, or private. Great conversation. Thank you so much for your time, and we will continue this conversation again.
Thank you, Swathi. It's been a pleasure. You're one of my favorite. I recommend you often as an AI thought leader, and it's really an honor for me to join you today. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll talk later.
Bye-bye.